Chapter 1: The Rise of Qingping Town. In Qingping Town, time seemed like a ruthless chisel, etching deep and shallow marks on Su Ran's life. Orphaned at a young age, the burden of life weighed on him like a mountain, making it hard for him to breathe. To make a living, he worked tirelessly from dawn to dusk, every day in a tavern, where the arduous labor consumed almost all of his life. However, despite the hardships, Su Ran's passion for swordsmanship shone brightly, like the most brilliant stars in the night sky, never fading. Every night, as darkness fell and all was quiet, Su Ran would sneak to the backyard of the tavern. The moonlight like water bathed his thin but resolute figure. Holding his worn-out wooden sword, he practiced his sword moves over and over again under the moonlight. Though the wooden sword was old and shabby, it seemed to come alive in his hands. Each swing carried his hopes for the future and his defiance against fate. One day, the tranquility of Qingping Town was shattered by a group of bullies, led by Iron Arm's Wang Kui. Wang Kui, with his towering and muscular building, looked like an iron tower. His face was covered with thick muscles, and his eyes were filled with ferocity and greed. He had already left a trail of misdeeds in other towns, and now he had turned Qingping Town into his paradise for plundering. Wang Kui and his gang swaggered into the tavern where Su Ran worked. Without a word, they began to eat and drink voraciously. After they finished, they not only refused to pay, but also started beating the tavern owner who tried to stop them. The owner's frail body could not withstand Wang Kui's brutality and was knocked to the ground, bleeding from the mouth and groaning in pain. Seeing this, Su Ran's anger flared up like a raging fire. Without hesitation, he grabbed his wooden sword and charged at Wang Kui like an enraged cub. Wang Kui, seeing Su Ran's thin figure, sneered with contempt. He reached out to grab Su Ran's collar as if he were picking up a chick. However, Su Ran, who had grown up in hardship, was extremely agile. He dodged Wang Kui's grabs with a quick movement, and at the same time, his wooden sword stabbed towards Wang Kui's wrist. Wang Kui felt a sharp pain in his wrist, and, enraged by the pain, he roared and threw a punch at Su Ran with his huge fist, creating a strong wind. Su Ran was unable to dodge in time and was hit and thrown to the ground, spitting out blood. Wang Kui walked up to him, stepped on Su Ran's hand, and said viciously, "You little brat! How dare you meddle in my affairs? If I don't teach you a lesson today, you won't know who you're dealing with." Su Ran's eyes burned with unyielding anger. He struggled desperately, but due to the disparity in strength, he could not break free. Just at this critical moment, an old man in a gray robe descended, as if from the sky. The old man had deep and penetrating the eyes, as if he could see through everything in the world. He frowned slightly at the scene. Then, with a gentle flick of his sleeve, an intangible yet powerful force surged out and sent Wang Kui flying like a broken kite. The old man walked up to Su Ran, looked him over, and a hint of approval flashed in his eyes. He took out an old and yellowed sword manual from his bosom and handed it to Su Ran, saying, "Young man, your courage is truly commendable. I gave you this sword manual. I hope you will make good use of it in the future." With that, without waiting for Su Ran to express his gratitude, he turned and left, quickly disappearing from everyone's sight. Su Ran carefully opened the sword manual and saw the words, "Xingxian Suixing Sword," written in an ancient and vigorous style on the cover. He was overjoyed knowing that this was definitely a rare and precious sword manual. From then on, Su Ran continued to work hard in the tavern during the day, but at night, he would hide in his small and shabby room, studying the sword manual by the dim light of a candle, practicing day and night. 3 months later, Wang Kui, having recovered from his injuries, was filled with an even stronger desire for revenge. He led his gang back to the tavern, determined to tear Su Ran limb from limb. Upon hearing the news, Su Ran walked out of the tavern with his wooden sword in hand. His demeanor had changed. His eyes now sparkled with confidence and determination. Seeing Su Ran, Wang Ku's eyes glinted with malice. He roared with laughter and said, "You little brat, today is your death day." Before Su Ran could react, Wang Kui charged at him like a mad bull, his iron arms swinging fiercely. Su Ran's eyes were resolute, his footsteps were light and steady, and his body moved like a ghost. His wooden sword traced strange and dazzling arcs, with moves that were a mix of reality and illusion, confusing the onlookers. Sometimes it struck like a meteor, and other times it seemed to flicker like stars from all directions. Wang Kui felt overwhelmed by the sword shadows and couldn't distinguish which strikes was the real one. Su Ran spotted a gap in Wang Kui's defense, lightly stepped forward, and shot out like a bolt of black lightning. His wooden sword, with a sharp whistling sound, aimed straight for Wang Kui's throat. Wang Kui was terrified and instinctively tried to dodge, but it was too late. Su Ran's wooden sword stopped just an inch in front, the throat of Wang Kui's. If he had pushed a little harder, Wang Kui would have been dead. Wang Kui's face turned pale as paper, and large beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. He collapsed to the ground, his previous arrogance completely gone. The gang members, seeing this, were terrified and fled in all directions. After this battle, Su Ran's fame spread throughout Qingping Town, and he became a hero celebrated by the townspeople. During this time, Su Ran met Liu Ryan. Liu Ryan was the daughter of a wealthy merchant in town. She was as beautiful as a fairy, with skin as white as snow, and eyes that were gentle and lively. After hearing about Su Ran's heroic deeds, she was filled with admiration and often came to the tavern to see Su Ran, bringing homemade snacks as an excuse. As they spent more time together, their feelings for each other grew. The small river outside the town became the witness to their love. They strolled along the riverbank with the gentle breeze, playing with Liu Ryan's hair. Su Ran looked at her affectionately, and they shared their joys and sorrows with each other. However, Su Ran had greater ambitions. He longed to explore the vast and unpredictable world of the martial arts, to realize his dreams of chivalry. Although Liu Ryan was reluctant, and tears filled her eyes, she understood that Su Ran's aspirations were like an eagle soaring in the sky, not meant to be confined. She held her back, sorrow and firmly supported Su Ran's decision. Su Ran held Liu Ryan's hand tightly, his eyes filled with guilt and deep affection. He promised that he would return and give her a stable future. Then he bid farewell to his beloved Liu Ryan and embarked on an uncertain journey in the martial world. At that moment, in the shadows of the martial world, a pair of eyes was watching Su Ran's every move, seemingly plotting something. What dangers will Su Ran face in the martial world? And what will become of his relationship with Liu Ryan?